You've most likely heard about the new real-time social audio-only networking app called Clubhouse. It's growing in popularity by the day, and many businesses and brands are exploring it as a platform. I keep getting asked about the repurposing potential, so I decided to share my initial thoughts. Listen in to find out what they are.
Welcome to the Content 10X Podcast, the show where content creators learn how to harness the power of content repurposing. And now, your host, Amy Woods.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Content 10X Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, the founder of Content 10X, and this week's episode is all about Clubhouse. Now, I know it seems like a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon of sharing content about Clubhouse, and now it seems like I am too, but the fact is, it is a very fast-growing platform. It's really growing in popularity, and I want to share my views. I'm in no way whatsoever an expert in Clubhouse, but specifically, I keep getting asked, what do I think about the repurposing potential for the platform? Are there any repurposing opportunities? Could it fit in with a broader content marketing strategy? So I'm about to share my thoughts. I hope to add something different to the conversation because, as always, I'm looking at this from a repurposing angle as much as I can. Firstly, let's just cover what is Clubhouse because not everybody has heard of it, not everybody has used it. So it's an audio-only, real-time social networking app. People can listen in to conversations, interviews, discussions between interesting people on all sorts of different topics. It's a little bit like tuning into a live radio show or attending a Zoom call, but where the cameras are switched off and it's not as private, not unless you want it to be. So on Clubhouse, people can search for and look at what conversations are taking place. And to use the analogy of a big event, there's basically a virtual hallway where you can scroll around and see what's going on. You can search by genre and topic and the people that you follow, and you can find out what conversations are taking place. Now, conversations happen in a room, in a virtual room. So this is, in the event analogy, a bit like a breakout room or the huge auditoriums, depending on the topic and the people involved and how many people attend. Now, you can join rooms as and when you like, and you can leave quietly as well if it's not for you. Now, some are planned and scheduled in advance, and then also some just seem to pop up as well. So it really depends. And if they are planned and scheduled in advance, then you can add the Clubhouse conversations to your calendar really easily as well, which is very useful, a little bit like adding an appointment. Some rooms get really full and reach the limit, which is 5,000 people, and then you end up in a waiting room if it really means that much to you to try and get in that room. And when you go into a room, you listen in on mute, unless you are an organizer or in Clubhouse speaker moderator or a speaker, in which case you can speak. But what can happen is you can raise your hand and show the people who are speaking. So in the event analogy, the people on the stage that you want to contribute, that you have a question, something to say to the conversation, and then the moderators who run the room will then decide who can become a speaker, who can take part in the conversation and essentially be brought up onto the stage. You can start your own room, you can have private rooms if you would like, and there are some added complexities to this. So at the moment it's in private beta, it is invitation only, and it is Apple only as well. So that's a real biggie. Now, the invitation only aspect is when people get onto Clubhouse, they get given so many invitations, and we seem to get more sometimes. Invitations seem to be flying around all over the place. So it's not this really exclusive club. I think, loads of people are on Clubhouse, but you do need to have that invitation or find someone to invite you. And the Apple only thing is, like I said, quite a big thing at the moment. All those Android people are excluded from Clubhouse whilst it's in this private beta, or at least for the time being anyway. Now, lots and lots of people absolutely love it, and lots of people think it's a complete waste of time, but that's like most social platforms. To be honest, things that I don't like about it. Now, at first, to me, the idea of just listening to people speak, like the concept of the cool kids chatting and the rest just sitting in the corner and listen, didn't sit with me that well. But then at the end of the day, you choose whether you think it's worthwhile to listen to the people and whether you respect and regard those people and what they're saying. So it's really down to choice. Then there's a bit of a hero worship thing going on as well. Everyone rushing to get to speak to Elon Musk or Gary Vaynerchuk. I know Oprah's been on there as well. That kind of thing isn't really my cup of tea either. But again, you make decisions on where you go and what content you consume on every platform. And also, there is a lot of self promotion that goes on. People who ask questions and raise their hand and want to go to the stage to contribute, but actually just end up promoting themselves. And it can be, I think, quite hard for the moderator sometimes to control that. And then the rooms just start to not particularly add a lot of value and just become very promotional. But you just need to make sure that you attend conversations where that doesn't happen, I guess. Because of the audio nature, I've heard people say that it's very similar to podcasting, that it's going to put a dent in the podcasting industry, or it'll even replace podcasting. But I don't really see the connection. It's a lot more comparable to a live stream, as in a Facebook Live, a LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live. It's real-time live streaming, but on audio versus video, and the interaction is actually a lot more personal because it's an actual conversation. So when you interact on a live stream, say a Facebook Live, it's usually the text that you're responding to, it's slightly delayed. Whereas here, when you interact, it's actually a conversation with another person. So there's a deeper level there. But then it's not recorded. There's no longevity. Once the Clubhouse conversation is over, once the room is closed, that's it. It's gone forever. Now, unlike podcasting, there's no editing, there's no ads. Some conversations are very formal and structured, and some are informal and very unstructured. So it really depends. It depends on what you want and what you're after. Because as with all things, there's some poor quality conversation and content, and there's some really, really high quality things going on the platform. So to see the value, I guess you just need to use it in the smartest way for you if you are interested in giving it a try. And again, as for the time drain, people saying, how can other people spend hours and hours and hours on there? Well, you can say that for every form of content as well, and every medium and every platform. So, you manage your own time. Hey, just a little break from this podcast episode to ask you a question. Would you like one single place that you can go to that provides you with everything you need to be able to implement the best practices in content repurposing for your video content, your podcast episodes, and your social media content today? To help you get more value from the content that you create, get more time back, and help you reach more people than you ever thought possible. If so, then you are going to love the Content 10x Toolkit. The toolkit is full of video tutorials, templates, checklists, swipe files, step-by-step guides and more that shows you how to repurpose your content in the best ways possible today. No more Googling, no more figuring it out yourself. We provide you with everything that you need to become a content repurposing pro. If this sounds like something that would interest you, then go check out the Content 10x Toolkit at content10x.com/toolkit. Okay, and back to this week's episode. So let's look at repurposing and Clubhouse. Now, as I speak on the platform, you can't record the audio. So you can't repurpose it like you would a podcast with audiograms and transcripts and that kind of thing. Some say it's causing much better conversations because people feel freer to express themselves. People don't worry about all sorts of production aspects and can just focus on a really good conversation. Now, you could take quotes, you could take snippets. It doesn't mean that you can't have a member of your team listening for golden nuggets and noting down key points and things like that, and still creating social media posts and things like that from the conversations. But it's much more about community. It's about engagement and interaction. It's about conversation and connection. I also think it can be great for idea generation as well. Plus, you can position yourself as a leader in your industry as well. So I do think it is a place for thought leaders to shine. Now, looking at a few angles in regards to content creators and building a community. Firstly, I think it's a good idea to show up at the same time every week if you want to grow a community there. So make it a regular thing. There's so much to be said for that kind of episodic approach. And in fact, in podcast episode 171, 7 reasons why you should create episodic content, I go through why I think that kind of approach works very well. So head on over to content10x.com/171 to hear all about that. So next, when you talk to your community, you can use their questions and ideas to help you work out what content to share on your core platform. So remember, Clubhouse, it's not your platform, it's shared land. So work out how you can benefit your core content from using Clubhouse. If you're a blogger, a podcaster, or a video creator, there's no better way to work out what content to create than to engage with the people you are creating the content for. And that very reason is why I'm speaking about this topic right now, because I engage with my audience and they kept asking me about this topic. So if you're hosting rooms on Clubhouse and questions get asked again and again, then maybe that is the biggest sign ever that that should be what your next blog post is about, or your podcast episode, or your next video. Also, then look at this from the other direction. So when you create your long form content, run a discussion on Clubhouse about the topic. You can direct people to the discussion on Clubhouse in your core content. Such a great way to provide access to you, a really great way to grow a community around your content. Because the problem with other forms of content is they're very, very one way. So someone is listening and maybe they think, oh, that's great, and they have this question that they want to ask about the topic. So how cool is it for you to be able to say, store up your questions and come over and ask me on Clubhouse. I'm there every week at this date and this time. And I've been saying this about live streams for ages, and it's just exactly the same premise. Now, if you have a podcast or a video show where you have guests who come on, then maybe you could see if they would be up for joining you on Clubhouse. I did this with Philip Twyford and Emma Duffy, where I went on their podcast, Let's Get Social, and their radio show, and they asked me to follow up with a Clubhouse chat, and that was my first ever chat on Clubhouse. And also our awesome client Jay Bear is doing a Social Pros episode for his podcast with Brian Fanzo, all about Clubhouse, and they are following up the conversation on Clubhouse. So Jay is talking with Brian on Clubhouse about the episode that they did about Clubhouse. So it's very, very meta, and I just really love that idea. So there's some great ideas to think about there as to ways to incorporate Clubhouse into your content strategy. You can be looking at it from different directions, from helping you to create core content, from helping you to interact with the people who consume your core content, from giving you the ideas on what the topic should be of your core content, and also for providing people with access to chat to you about the content that you're putting out. And it's all about conversation and community. And as with live streams, video or audio live streams, the benefits are about transparency. So it's the access and the authenticity as well. So you're accessible and you can respond in real time to questions, and you can show that you can hold your own in conversations about the topics that you are demonstrating that you are a leader in. So it's not just so one dimensional, it's not scripted, it's not rehearsed. Perhaps it will actually weed out those who can't hold their own and don't know so much about the topics when put on the spot, because their knowledge is only surface level. If you are running events, either virtual or in-person events, whenever they are possible again, there's options to incorporate rooms for the attendees of your events. So you could have this whole thing going on over there on Clubhouse, and you can create private rooms too. So this could be for the attendees that are paying to go to your event to get that extra access to things going on Clubhouse. And this concept can be really good for membership site owners as well, or any kind of subscription service offering access to rooms. So membership or SaaS businesses as well, offering that exclusive access to you and your team. Anything with exclusivity and access is always a massive benefit for membership, subscriptions, SaaS businesses. So there are loads and loads of benefits and lots to consider, but it's massively with limitations right now. So as I speak, and of course this will change, it's Apple only. So you can't get onto Clubhouse if you have an Android device. And it's invitation only, though it hardly seems that difficult to get one. In fact, message me on social media if you want a Clubhouse invitation, because I seem to have quite a few. But the Apple only play would mean that you are excluding a lot of people if you decided it was your main community focus, or if you have a paid for community and you move them to Clubhouse for even just some discussions. I'm sure you'd probably get a few complaints about that. So I'm not saying go all in. It's one of those places that could potentially distract you, but it's possibly one more place to really establish authority and grow a community too. So think about how it could serve you either now or down the line. Perhaps you can just dip your toe in, test it, see how it goes, or if you don't like the sound of it or it's just one more distraction, avoid it like the plague if it's not your thing. But I hope that I've told you a little bit more about my thoughts on Clubhouse. And I'll share more on my thoughts and its potential as and when it develops. So thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I'd love to know about your experiences on Clubhouse. So do let me know on social media. You can follow me at Content 10x on all the social media platforms. Also, if you would like help with your content repurposing, then at Content 10x, we offer a fully end-to-end content repurposing service. So do go check that out at content10x.com. And if you haven't got a copy already, then why not get a copy of my book, Content 10x? It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble online and pretty much anywhere online that you can buy books, or just go to content10x.com/book. So all that's left to say is thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, and I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that discussion and thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy the Content 10x podcast, then why not hit that subscribe button on your podcast listening app of choice so that you can get updated when new episodes are released. And I'd really, really appreciate it if you could leave a review as well. That really makes a difference for the podcast. Also, please do get a copy of my book, Content 10x, More Content, Less Time, Maximum Results. It is the ultimate guide to repurposing every type of content, and it's available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback and also in audiobook as well. And you can head to content10x.com/book to find all the other places that you can get a copy of my book. And if you would like us to do your content repurposing for you, then we offer a fully end-to-end done for you content repurposing service. This is for podcasters and video content creators. We have our Podcast 10x, Video 10x, and also our specific LinkedIn 10x service, helping you to become the leading authority in your industry on LinkedIn. You can find out so much more about our services on our website. And also, please do give me a follow on the social media platforms. I share lots and lots of tips and advice on social media about content repurposing. I'm at Content 10x on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And if you try content10x.com/LinkedIn, you'll find my LinkedIn profile over there as well. All that's left to say is thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, and I'll catch you in the next one.